Hi everyone, Ethan here from Extreme RC 4x4, and I'm super excited to have what I have with me right now. This is the Traxxas TRX-4 chassis kit. So this is going to be really exciting. Just looking over the box, I really love what they did here. I don't know if you guys can see kind of the blueprint style that they did here. That's just really awesome. That's the kind of stuff you love to see on the kit version, because that's kind of what the mindset that people that are building these things are into. But this kit's really neat. It comes with all the electronics and everything. You get the inner fenders and of course your radio, the TQI. So basically this is a stock ready to run truck. This is exactly the same as TRX-4 Bronco, except for the wheels are different, the bumpers are different, and you don't get the body. So I will probably be building my own for this, but one thing I did notice is it says TRX-4 Premium Kit. It includes, so it kind of goes over some of the features that are in the higher end models now with the release of the TRX-4 Sport. What I've been questioning is whether or not they're going to be producing a second kit version that has the lock differentials, a single speed transmission, and it doesn't have the inner fenders like we see on the TRX-4 Sport. So that would be pretty neat. It'd probably be at a much lower price point than what this is, as I believe to buy a TRX-4 Sport costs less money than to get the kit. But I love the locking differentials on the 2-speed, so I would probably not end up going for that. But I have poked my head around in here a little bit. I don't know if you guys really want to look at the rest of the box. It's kind of what you'd find with the ready to runs here. But here's just over all the electronics here and some of the assembly things you need. Just basic tools that most people probably have, and there's actually stuff on the bottom too. One thing I couldn't believe is how heavy this box is. You know, like, I have not dug around yet, but I don't know if it's just all the extra packaging or what's going on in here. So go ahead and pull some stuff out. Here's all of our electronics aside from the motor. You have all of the servos here. You have your TQI radio. I'll probably be picking up another Traxxas link for this, just because I found that you can get you can increase the steering up to like 140% or 120%, but it'll allow you to increase the travel on the front, and it does get a little choppy on the front axle joints. I don't know if those are CVDs or not, but anyways, that's one of the cool things I found out about having that. Right here we have all of our like your bumpers and rock sliders, and it looks like body posts and the hardware for that. So that's all in one neat bag. Basically everything's probably just going to be packaged on which steps it's going to go through. Right here we have our shocks and the springs in here. So this is suspension. The chassis accessories, this is mainly like cross braces, your fenders, your inner fender wells, which are also the shock towers. But I don't want to break any of this stuff open yet, because I'll just have a huge mess of parts to go through. The transmission bag appears to have not a ton of parts in it, lots of hardware and plenty of gears, but the transmission seems to be a nice small size. I haven't pulled mine out of my Defender yet, which I should probably do in the future, but it will be interesting to see. Here's where our motor is. It's in the electronics bag, separate from all the rest of the electronics. You can see here we have the seal for the waterproof receiver box, and we have some silicone grease, but I'll probably be using my grease that I use on everything here, just because I have a feeling I'll run out with that tiny stick of it, and it'll just be easier for me to use one kind of grease. Here's the rear axle with all of our portals, of course, and we do have all of the gears for everything is packaged separately, as well as the bearings. Here is already pre-assembled the shift linkage for the locking differentials. I was kind of wondering about that, but as you can tell, Traxxas already went ahead and did a lot of that finicky stuff for us. Front axle bag, you can see lots more components just because of the steering, but should all be fun to build. I do like that the links come pre-assembled. That can be kind of tedious sometimes, and I often find myself trying to hold a wrench on these and then I end up scratching them all up. So that's nice, even though they will be getting scratched up on the trail most likely. We have a bag of tires here. It would be nice if it came with a 5th tire as your spare, but I can't understand why they didn't include one, simply for the fact that they have no idea what body you're going to be putting on this truck. So, understandable, but it would be nice. We have our frame rails here. Interesting to see them alone. I haven't had my truck that far apart, but as you can see, the frame rails are actually different from side to side. We have this kind of extra bulge piece right here. I did not notice that before, but it is not on the other side right here where it should be. So I'm not sure exactly what that's for. That might be for the 3rd link on the front suspension, because you have a 3-link with a panhard bar. That might be where that mounts to, but we'll find out because we are building it. Here's our tool bag. This is basically the tools that come with the ready to run. I actually really like this this Allen wrench that's kind of a T. It's much more comfortable to use than say the style like this, because this one has both sides so you can actually spin it around. This is a differential bag here, so this must be the front and rear differentials, as we have duplicates of everything. Drive shafts, and of course the instructions. So let's go ahead and dig into this. So when you get your truck, make sure that you register for the warranty at Traxxas.com, or you can mail this in. I usually just do it on the website, and that seemed to work out fine for me. So I'll have to remember to do that off camera. Looks like a big packet about what happens if your truck breaks. You get stickers, and of course the body clips are in there. So, wow, look at this. The manual is colored. I did not know that. Usually with the trucks it's just a basic black and white manual, but we got color here. So looks like a pretty well put together manual. Alright, so just looking at the transmission and everything, just these parts, the way that they're, I believe these are molded, right? That would seem about right. But the lines are so sharp. It's really amazing. So, can't wait to get this together. It's gonna be really awesome. Check out these little gears. I think this is pretty awesome. This must be how the 2-speed works. Okay everyone, so I'm sacrificing these calipers to a little bit of grease right now, but I have encountered an issue and I'm not sure if this is the one that I've read about in reviews or not. However, this is supposed to accept a 10mm bearing into it right here, and if we take our calipers, zero it out right here, so we'll zero them so everybody can see right there. Slightly off, but if we go inside of this gear here, the largest I've been able to get is 9.7578. So that is supposed to accept this bearing, which is the only 5x10x4mm bearing that I think is in the kit, and it is just under 10mm. So it's not the bearing that we're having a problem with, it's this gear. And I'm not sure if you can see, if I get the gear over here, there's a kind of a ridge on the inside. Now if I measure to the outside of the ridge and not the inside, that comes out to be, let's see here, looks to be about 10.29mm. So that would be about right for setting that bearing in here correctly with some grease. 10 point, see, here's a little tight, 10.26 there. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I guess we will shoot Traxxas a phone call or an email. Alright everybody, so it is now time to continue work on the TRX-4 kit. They sent me out this replacement part. As you guys saw, the issue, I kind of had to throw everything back together here, but I think this is our gear. And let's see, I started building this on, I think, Monday, which would have been July 2nd, and they got this part to my house by Saturday, and they're in Texas, I'm in Michigan, so add in July 4th holiday on Wednesday. So that's pretty good for shipping of a replacement part, but I'm just gonna go ahead and try to get back into this, run this on a time lapse so I don't have to explain everything to you guys. Those of you that make YouTube videos will probably understand, but I'm just gonna go ahead and show you the difference here first. So as you can see here, this is the two faces of the gears that are different, and as I was pointing out, this lip right there needed to be machined, and right here we can see that it's definitely significantly larger. But just gonna go ahead and get right into it. So thank you very much, Traxxas. I really appreciate the great customer support if you're watching this. But anyways guys, I'm gonna dig right into this build. Alright, so one of the things that really had me worried about this kit was what servos was I going to use, because there's 3 different servos that do the differential locks as well as the transmission shifting, and they all have to have different angles for the horns. So it says in here that they're factory centered, but I had no idea, because if you look in the electronics box, the servos have arms going all different directions. So there's no way that a servo can turn all the way upside down. It still has to turn the other way like this one. If I was going to use this as the shift servo, the horn would need to be on top. But what Traxxas has done is they have gone ahead and labeled them. This is the shift servo. The first one I pulled out here is the rear T-lock servo. So that's really nice to have them factory centered for whatever setup it's going to be running. These are set up to run my differentials. That's set up to run the transmission. So it's really helpful that they did that and we don't have to self-center them ourselves, because that would take a really long time to set it all up. Alright, here's my transmission complete. Everything feels like it's rolling around in there smoothly. The shift servo, the arm was a little more this way, but I believe it's just so that the servo will put tension on this, so that when you're shifting, the servo saver won't just absorb all of that motion in the servo. So I think that's why that is, but everything feels smooth so far. Slight play in here, but I believe that's due to the shift setup. If you've seen that, the shift dog doesn't really take up the whole gap in the gears, which is understandable because it would make it really difficult to shift if it did. But I'm gonna keep moving on. So okay, I just want to take a moment here and discuss building these differentials. Now, I do like to use grease on these gears in here, but it is very important to use only a small amount, because if you put too much grease in here, the differential, when it's open, it's not going to act like an open differential, just because there's so much friction inside of it that it's going to spin like it's still locked up. So just wanted to make that quick announcement. You can see that in my TRX-4 axle greasing video, but I'm going to continue to build this off camera and we'll get through the build. So if you notice the cut in the video there, it's just because I actually messed up part of this truck when I was building it. I was not trying to do it intentionally, but I was flying through these differentials. Seems how I've built them multiple times, and I wasn't really paying attention to the instructions, and I made the mistake of not lining up the flat spots right there on that pin that you can see. And if you don't line up the flat spots and you screw the gear onto the outside like I did, you'll end up breaking one of those pins, or maybe not if you're lucky, but I ended up breaking one right in half of that flat spot. So I had to order a new set of gears from Traxxas so that I can continue building this truck. But after I get done with this, I'm going to move on to the rear axle, and after that, probably the front axle. So Alright, it's a little late. I got the axles done, and I think I'm just gonna call it a night right now. And tomorrow I'm gonna come back, start the chassis. Super excited. We're getting really close to finishing this, so I'll catch you guys in the morning. Alright, I'm back this morning, and hopefully we can get pretty well into the chassis and maybe some of the electronics by the time I am done today. Okay, so this is actually pretty impressive. I did not realize how thick these frame rails are until now, but you can see just the material that is used here. It's really thick, so you know they're making good quality products. Alright everyone, I have the TRX-4 build finished up. It was more of an in-depth build than what I've ever built before. However, it was enjoyable in that nature. I don't know that I would recommend this to someone that has no mechanical background at all, but if you can take things apart and put them back together and they still work, you go in the right direction to being able to build this. I did have a few hiccups along the way. The first being this gear in the transmission that people in reviews say the bearing doesn't sit right. Traxxas got me a new one sent out, and the shipping was quick. They sent me out a brand new one. The guy on the phone probably had a new one in the mail in about 10 minutes. So I was very happy with that. I also broke one of the pins inside of the differential, just one of these guys, simply because I did not line up the flat spots, and I cinched down the ring gear on it, and the gears didn't have anywhere to go, so it just cracked in half. So I got a new one of those ordered up. As you can see, I didn't bother contacting Traxxas because it was my fault, not theirs. I did manage to get all the electronics wired up. It's a lot of wiring, especially for a brand new truck, but the trail finder's sitting right over here, and that's also a wiring mess. So one thing that I do notice about these Traxxas TRX-4s is that everything is just made to work. You can tell everything was designed to fit together, how all this fits, and it just blows my mind because you never see that on a trail truck normally. But I'm really happy with the Traxxas build quality. Their plastics are excellent, and really everything is just designed to work together. You can tell it's like a puzzle how everything just fits together really tight, not too tight, but it fits together well and like it should. And you usually don't see stuff like this from other brands like Axial. Having some of the components built definitely helps. I really did not miss cutting things off of a parts tree. I was really happy that everything came by itself, so I didn't have to cut it off of a parts tree. And the links being assembled, that helps because that always takes a while to get all of those links assembled. At first, all of the bags with the parts were going along with each step, but once you got into the chassis, you started having to take parts out of the frame rail box, out of the plastics box, and out of the plastics bag, and you'd kind of like jump around back and forth from the electronics. So if they had it organized step by step, that could help a little bit. The manual is very helpful. They have written descriptions, what you need to do, as well as the color-coded pictures rather than black and white. I'm very happy with it. You can note their attention to detail here too with the shocks, how the front left needs to be set with a higher preload. I think that might just be to help eliminate what little torque twist there might be on this truck, just because of portal axles. So not really sure what else to say. This is basically my TRX-4 Defender with the inner fender wells mounted on the chassis rather than mounted on the body, which makes it easier to fit a custom body or a outsourced body onto here. The rear bumper is different from my TRX-4. Here is my TRX-4, and this bumper is a little bit wider, and this one comes back to here the whole way just because that's where the body sits. I'm planning to not glue these tires and just throw my Defender tires that were on here, just because I'm not going to be using those right now. And then maybe down the road I'll pick up some bead locks and mount these tires to bead locks, just because that way I can air seal it. And these tires, the tires or the foams inside of here are fairly stiff, so if I can just run these air filled, that would not be a problem for me. I'm not going to tell you guys what I'm going to be doing for a body on here quite yet, but I'm not going to be purchasing anything as I know of yet. I'm planning to build a custom body just because there's not one out there. So hopefully I'll be able to get that wrapped up by the end of the summer, and if not, I guess we'll figure it out from there. Another thing different from the Defender, you get your battery tray up in the front for smaller batteries, such as this one that I have in here. Okay, just pop it out. Sits right there. So not a huge deal. I'll just run the stick packs because you get so much run time. I found that the Traxxas electronics, or this motor and ESC system, drain a lot more power than my Tegan systems that I'm used to. But overall, great build. I would recommend it to anyone that can, take things apart and get them back together. I wouldn't exactly recommend it for somebody with no mechanical experience, but if you're really ambitious about it, the instructions are helpful and just follow them closely. But thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.